welcome to Underneath the Hat podcast. I am your host, Cherie Simmons, author, entrepreneur, educator, and I'm so excited for our episode today. For the past couple of weeks, we have been discussing the Truth series, dealing with different topics that we deal with every day underneath our hats. We all wear different hats in our lives. And so we've been diving in and having discussions about topics that affect all of us, men, women, young adults, seasoned folks. And so we started off with our church series where we spoke about the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a first lady, a pastor's wife. And now we're going to dive into another part of the church, being an administrative assistant. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest for tonight. You may know her or learn to know her as Reverend Teresa Jackson, but I know her as Mom. So let me welcome our guest, Reverend Teresa Jackson. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Cherie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay, you're not nervous.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So before we dive into church hurt, let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, as you've just heard, I am Cherie's mother. She's the oldest of 3 children. I have been in the administrative secretarial field since, well, at my current location for almost 24 years now. But prior to that, a job that I've ever had has been around secretarial work. And I do this because I love what I do. So that's about it as far as being the administrative assistant. I am, as you mentioned, I am a minister. I am ordained. And not only do I work at one church full-time, I work at another church part-time as the executive assistant. And I've been doing that since December of last year.
Okay, well, this should be interesting. So let's dive in. All right, so let's dive in. We always talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I let my guests decide what they want to talk about first, because some people like to lead with the good and then leave the bad for later. I like to lead with the bad and end on a good note. So we'll let you choose which one you would like to share as far as being an administrative assistant or executive assistant for so long.
Okay, well, I'm going to take them in the order that you stated them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And okay, I will end on a good note. So, as far as the good is concerned, I love what I do. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I actually began to get into the secretarial field or like doing that kind of work. I was in 5th grade when I learned how to type. And not to tell my age, but I actually taught myself on a manual typewriter. So by the time I got into 5th grade and learned from a teacher, I pretty much knew the keyboard. So again, I love what I do, and also getting to know people. Because I don't know if you know this, Cherie, but I ended up where I am now because I had a great aunt who took me to this particular church as a child, and she would say, "Who is that? Go tell so-and-so this." I'm like, who is that? Where can I find her? She said, "You need to know people. You need to know people's names." So that allowed me to become inquisitive, I guess, to find out who these people are. And then when the opportunity came for the job, I was ready to do that, even though I was at a law firm at the time. But getting to know the people and the fact that I love what I do. Now, is it easy? No, and I'm not talking about the work, but we'll get to that shortly. So yeah, those are the main reasons why about the good of being for me, I can only speak for me, is that I love what I do. I love taking care of individuals and meeting people and doing work for people. I'm much of a talker. If I didn't have to answer the telephone, that would be fine. People tend to like my telephone. Okay, so telephone is part of it. But, and then, like I said, getting to know people.
Okay, so that's the good part. Now, what would you say has been the bad part of being an administrative assistant for so long?
Okay, so for the bad, the church that I work for, full time, I grew up there. And because I grew up there, some of those same people are still there, and they see me as that little girl. And I'm probably that little girl. I have a title on my name, which is fine. Thank God for it. I've gone to school and gotten degrees, and so I'm a changed individual. My spiritual walk and life is different than what a little girl. So there are things about me that I'm no longer that little girl, but that's how they see me, and that's how they treat me. And so for so long, I kind of bite my tongue and not, because I'm always going to respect my elders.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy. But it's something that I was brought up doing. I may cry and fuss at the end of the case, but during that time, and it doesn't feel good. I don't think people realize that everyone has feelings. And especially now with me being a minister, people think I won't say what it is that I really want to say. And really knowing me, I probably would not, because I'm still, by being a minister, I'm an introvert, and I am, so I'm not going to be disrespectful. But the fact that I've been in that particular church for so long, I joined that church when I was 11. And so that becomes an issue and a problem for me. And then and with that, I feel unappreciated. They don't appreciate the work that I give, the things that I do. And there's so many examples, and I don't even have time for that. Just the unappreciation that I receive. And like I said, some people have known me since I was 11 years old. Those are a couple of the bad things. And one more, not being by those that I'm doing. There are some issues with other people. Those that have known me for a very long time, they don't support me. They don't speak up for me. So I just have to do what I have to do. And like I said, it doesn't feel good all the time, or none of the time. And the fact that I am a grown woman with 3 of my own children. And if I don't allow my children to be disrespectful, then it's kind of hard for me to sit back and receive disrespect from others. But that's the bad part.
Yeah.
Now you want me to keep on to the ugly part?
Okay. Well, okay, so what's the ugly part? Because it's another part of the church that you play that I would love to get insight on too. But let's finish with the administrative assistant component. What's the ugly part of being an administrative assistant?
The ugly part would be the attitudes of Christian people. It's not. I worked in corporate, but the difference between corporate for me and working in the church, is where the corporate people stand. When you're going to church and working for a church, you expect a certain type of something. You expect things to be different, your attitude to be different. You expect to receive love. You expect to receive understanding. You just expect a certain level of different type of attitude. And where I work, that's not what I get. And then, I'm not saying with everybody, but the leaders, and I've sat under, or I've worked under 2 senior pastors and 2 interim pastors of that church. And so I have some experiences. Yeah.
So and I grew up in the church, so I know exactly the people that you are talking about. And the fact that when you come back to the church and as an adult, they see you differently, they treat you a different way. So I can only imagine working there. And I have heard some of the stories that you share with my sister and I definitely tell you all the time, you're better than me. Because
yeah,
it had happened to either Twala or I, it would have been a whole different situation. Yeah. That's why I have not gone back to join that church, because I know the makeup of the people. And plus, I always said that if you can survive being a member of that church, you can survive anything anybody can say or do to you. Because that was definitely a battleground to prepare me for life. Like there's nothing that
it's like David. Yeah. It's like David in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like David in the Bible. Everything he went through, it was his battleground experience to prepare him for what God had for him next. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's the battleground. It's hard for me to go in there every day, and right now during COVID, so the hours have been cut and the pay has been cut. So I just give all praise to God for me being able to make it right now. But even with that, even with doing the cuts, they're very nasty about it. You know, so I'm praying that the Lord would move me, and I've been praying for like after the 5th year of this 24 years that I've been there. Lord, please, send me somewhere else. But for whatever reason, I'm still there. And like I said, I'm grateful for the job. But as an administrative assistant, I know it doesn't have to be like this. And the reason I went back to school and received my master's in HR was because of me being where I am now and understanding that it's not supposed to be like this. But then even with that, with me having that kind of educational experience, they don't want to use it. They don't come to me asking anything because I'm just little old Teresa who sits there typing, answering the phone, and preparing the bulletins. That's how the majority of them see me. But, oh Lord, there's so much more to it than that. So
now, growing up in the church and then working in the church, what advice would you give someone who's making that transition? Because I remember when I went from being a teacher at Jesse Owens to being an administrator, someone from that church, one of my mentors, told me, it's going to be hard. Don't do it. Don't go from working with people and then now you're their boss. But it was the best experience I had because I came in with the mindset of I'm an equal just like you. I may have moved up in the ranks, but I didn't come in treating them differently because my title changed. So what advice would you give someone who's deciding if they should make that type of vertical move where they're going from being a member to working in a higher position or any position at that matter?
Don't do it. I have learned my lesson. Don't do it. On the outside, you think it's something good, right? You think, oh, I grew up here in this church, and these are the sweetest and the nicest people. And for me, I wouldn't do it again. And I've, since being a minister, I've run into some ministers who are pastors of their church, of the churches that they've grown up in. It's a challenge. So it's just not me, saying about working in the environment that I grew up in. There are other people in other fields that feel the same. It is a challenge. So, and Cherie, I tell you, and everyone that's listening, we're talking about a strong prayer life. Lord, increase my faith. Yes. I have gone home crying. I have gotten to the point where I have threatened an individual about seeking a lawyer because he was harassing me verbally. And I'm talking within the last couple of years. So it's been a challenge. And again, if I had to do it over again, myself right now would tell myself in a couple of years, don't do it. Yeah, don't do that. Because I know now I understand. I'm sorry.
Do you have a breaking point?
My breaking point is here. But as I said earlier, I don't want to just walk out. You know what I'm saying? Because I get so frustrated sometimes when I'm like, Lord, if I could, I would just walk. Because the things that people say to me, the way that I'm treated, they make you feel like this, this little. And because of the church that we've come from, we know that what's important to them is what kind of degree you have, or if you have a degree at all.
Yeah.
Okay. And not to brag, but a lot of them don't know I have 3, right? But because I'm not them or on the in crowd, it doesn't matter, because still all they see is that little girl who was running around here in the church or going to Sunday school or whatever it was that I was doing, singing in the choir or whatever. So, yeah, my breaking point really started, like I said, like 5 years in, and I've been there almost 24.
What made you stay?
What made me stay? Not being able to find another job. For real.
Really, Mom?
Really. Yes. I mean, again, I love what I do. So I can do what I do anywhere. Really.
Right.
I mean, I can do this kind of work anywhere. But like I said, I pray and ask God to move me, send me somewhere else. I go and I search for, send my resume here and there. It's like nothing is biting. So I'm like, okay, God, I'm supposed to be here, I guess. So, but I tell you something about God. He always sends somebody to be served as an angel for me. Every single time. It's like, I don't know what's coming next, but whatever's coming, there's always somebody there that I can vent to. And he sends them there to that particular church, whether they're an officer, whether they're chair of a committee, whether there's another employee, whether it's a pastor. Yeah. Yeah. So I've reached my breaking point, but it's yeah,
a lot. Because I probably right now, given some of the stories I heard. I always believe that even in the midst of being, God makes you uncomfortable because He's getting ready to move you, or it's a lesson He wants you to learn. So, and even in the midst of chaos and confusion, there's something that we're supposed to learn. So what do you think has been your lesson so far with 24 years on this job and having gone through 19 years of being at your breaking point?
Well, my lesson And I learned this a long time ago, probably like 10 years ago. Well, a little longer than 10, maybe 15 years ago, if not longer. Um, that everything I do it to the glory of God. Because if I do it as if God is sitting right there with me, and because I reverence God the way that I do, then even though it's not easy to hear all of that stuff that people say or all the things that people try to do to me, I just have to focus on my relationship with God. And I think that besides God sending an angel every now and again, I think that has helped me along the way. Okay, God, this is you and me. Because I tell you, I have gone home crying. You know, somebody wanted to fire me. You know, one of the interim ministers wanted to get me fired, and the leaders at that time were backing her. And that lady had just met me. You know, but yeah, I would just continue to, this is what I've learned, is just to continue to pray and trust God. Understand that it's not about me. You know, it feel like it is at the moment, but it's not about me. And just do everything that I do it to the glory of God. And I have to remember and remind myself, you're doing this as if God was sitting right here with you. Because if he's sitting right there with you, then he's going to give you everything that you need to make it through at least the day. And we'll worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually funny you say that, setting small goals, which makes it easier for you to reach. Yeah. I like my soap operas. So I was just upstairs watching General Hospital today, and one of the characters is dealing with alcoholism, and she got her first 1 day sober coin. And the person who gave it to her, Monica Quartermain, the one who gave it to her, she said, don't worry about taking it day by day, just focus on hour by hour. So instead of saying I'm 1 day sober, just take it hour by hour. The smaller the goal, the better your chances of reaching your ultimate goal. So that is definitely true in life. And I love how you say you do things as if God is sitting there with you, which is what integrity is. And nowadays people lack integrity. They only do things based on what they hope somebody will see. Or I'm doing this so somebody can see, so this can happen. They're not doing it because it's ultimately down deep in them, and that's just who they are. Their character is shaky, and so they do things for show instead of doing it to show that they're a good person.
Right. Yeah.
Now, because you're here and you have a dual role in the church, not only are you an administrative assistant, but you're also a minister. So in that position, what is a lesson that you've learned about the church and all of the different levels that there are within it?
Are we talking this particular church or just me being a minister in general? Well, as you know, my pastor, when I first joined the church where I am now, and before I became a minister, but it still applies. My pastor told me, don't worry about people. People are going to be people. And for even in the church, people get a title and they just want to run with it and put on this important hat, but you're still a person. And at the end of the day, like I just said, which is what I've been living by, is you still need to do everything you do to the glory of God, So, and people don't do that. We get stuck on the titles that we have. And in my role as administrative assistant, in my role as a minister, I see that. And even as an executive assistant, and that's at a whole nother church, but see, I don't know those people, so I can't, but that's a wonderful experience for me. But as a minister, I see it at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
I see the individuals or the committees or the boards, and they're fighting against each other, and I just don't understand it. But that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And as a minister, it grieves my spirit to see that, because at the end of the day, we are all supposed to be walking up, having a faith walk, and we're all supposed to be confessing and professing to love God. And if you're loving God, then you're not going to have all of this fighting and all these other things that's going on. I don't want to talk to this person because this person, I don't like this person. And if you're doing this for that person, then you need to let me know you're doing it for that person. And nobody have time for that. I don't have time for it. But that's what I see. Even on the level of being a minister. When I first became a minister, there was some jealousy. Yeah. Even with the older people, you know. And listen, I always tell people it's not easy being a minister. I'm not a pastor. I'm a minister. I'm an ordained minister. But some of the older ministers didn't treat me, pastor automatically gave me a position, as the administrator over the ministerial staff. People, I mean, that's like coming into anything. Who is that? Why is she, but that's what he did. So it's a journey. And I still ask God, really? Me? Are you sure? But yeah, it's an experience. I love, like I said, I started out saying, even with ministry, I love what I do. Preaching, preparing sermons. I love to write, so I love when I get into my preparation for a sermon. Don't bother me because I'm focused. So yeah.
Well, I was married to a pastor, and being in that position, I would look at the people sometimes and be like, really? Like, y'all want a lot that you could do for yourself. The veil was rich so that you didn't have to go through another person to get to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that is called for everything.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I can say about my ex-husband was he set boundaries. It was just certain stuff wasn't gonna happen. I'm not coming running every 5 minutes. And they tried it because that's what they were used to with the previous pastor. But that running for frivolous stuff wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And it just baffles me how 1 minute certain people in the church can act like children, and then another minute they want to be the big bad wolf. And then the next minute there's meek as a lamb. It's like it's bipolarism all over the place. It's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I really have to take my hat off to pastors and ministers because I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Well,
pastors, their head is a little bit bigger than a minister, because we don't have to. We follow the pastor's lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even at the other church where I'm an executive assistant, I follow the pastor's lead, and I do what it is the pastor wants me to do. Now, sometimes he have me going to this meeting and going to this seminar and all these different kinds of things. But as a pastor, as I've watched that one, and I've been under 2 at my current location. God bless their ministry. People are demanding and get mad when they don't move, and don't let someone in the family pass. Oh Lord. Oh yes. Yes. It's a whole big deal.
That's why I was a kid.
Yep, it's a whole big deal. So, and you know what? If I say unappreciated, let me say this. As where I am now, they don't have a ministry; they have an interim, right? Mm-hmm. So before they receive the interim, the Lord put it in my spirit to do something because they were not doing anything. They were not doing having prayer. They were not doing anything. So I began to do a robocall every Saturday and do a inspirational word and a prayer.
Yeah.
People complained about that. You know, you're not getting anything. No, because it was me doing it. And then as soon as the interim minister came, they were like, "Are you going to take that over now?" And he said, "No. Reverend Jackson's doing fine." They wanted him to take it over just because of whatever they were feeling toward me. Didn't think I was the person that needed to do that. And I still do it, and I'm going to do it until the Lord says no. I hear from God very well. As soon as He tells me to stop, I'm not going to do it anymore. So
yeah,
it's something.
One of my mentors, she calls them the aristocratic church because she has experience with them too. For people that she knows, and it's whenever I hear your stories, I just shake my head. Like, and I know the other side of you, and I'm just waiting for it to come out because I remember who I grew up with, and I'm like, where is she?
They don't want that.
But yeah, I would like to warn them though. I've noticed a couple of like last week it's starting to creep out. So you might want to take cover. I'm just saying. I just don't understand and treating people any kind of way, and you're supposed to be the church. Now I've grown up in church since I was 10 years old, and when I joined, it was more about religion. Do it this way, follow that rule. You can't do that. You can't wear that. You gotta act this way. But as I've gotten older, I've formed a relationship with God. And so not all of those things that we were told we could and couldn't do, that's not important. The important thing is, how do you communicate with Him? Do you know His voice when He tells you something? And you have people in the church that go to church, but they don't know who God is.
They're doing it, and I don't want to sound judgmental, but I can only say what I say based on what I've seen, and because I sit there every day, and because I know them, they do what they do out of routine.
Yeah.
Sunday is church. We're going to church on Sunday. Tuesday is this board meeting. I'm a part of that. I need to be there. And what drives me crazy, people on these boards, they sit there for 25 years and couldn't tell you where the back door is. That drives me crazy.
But that's the thing. You can tell if they know God or not. If you've been to another church, and that's something else. You have these people who have grown up in this one church their whole life. They've never seen any other church and how it operates. And being a former first lady and moving to other churches, I've been to 6 churches in my whole life. I have seen the different ways that other churches operate. And it's not until you take those rose-colored glasses off and see the difference between a church that practices religion or routine versus a church where people have a relationship. Right. You can tell if a person has a relationship. Even the relationships we have with each other. If you have a significant other, there are certain things that you do with your significant other that will spew off onto you doing it with somebody else.
Yeah.
The way you talk to people, the way you greet people. If you've been saying, hey, sweetie, every time you come in, sometimes you slip and say, hey, sweetie, to a perfect stranger because you used to having that conversation. So if you have a relationship with God, then you know that God doesn't treat people any kind of way. And if you come in every day, every week, and you treat somebody in a nasty way, that lets me know that you don't have a relationship with God.
Right. Yep.
And I can say being in that building and taking the rose-colored glasses off and hearing some of these stories, the same way that those people treated me when I was there is the same way that they're treating you now. So they don't have a relationship. And that was a reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is because we've been walking around so long, hiding underneath our hats and not dealing with the stuff that we have going on inside of our heads, inside of our hearts, inside of our spirits that cause us to hurt each other because we're hurt. because we have dealt with it and healed from it. And I wanted to start with the church because that's the foundation of most Black people. Yes. That's what we learned: how to give a speech, how to stand correct, how to dress appropriate, what we could and could not say, how you're supposed to treat people, and to see the things that people are saying and doing, and the main ones saying and doing it now, even over social media, our church people. Yeah, I got a problem with that, especially when you believe in God. No, you don't. You know who He is, but you don't have a relationship with Him.
Right. And then, and
not be in a relationship with them.
Right. And then, some of my worst hurts are in the church. That church, where I am employed right now every day. And some of the same people, the people that hurt me are still there. And never has either any of them ever said, I apologize. But like I said, I just keep praying, and one day God is going to move me. I mean, they major and minors. That's what they do. Yeah. And it's also bad when people come in who have absolutely no idea about the church overall, and they come in to provide a service or whatever, and then they sit in on a meeting and find out, they come to me and say, Teresa, what in the world? Yeah. New staff people, new employees come in and maybe like, tell me something about what should I expect when I go to this meeting? What about this person? I'm not one to do that. My response is, I want you to find out everything you need to find out on your own. Yeah. Unlike what they've done for me.
You can tell
unlike what they do. Unlike what they do to me, what they've done for me, because somebody doesn't like me on this particular day and they bad talk me, they'll share with somebody else something negative about me. And then that person they're sharing it with has an opinion of me and never had a conversation with me. Yep. And that's a lot of what I have to deal with every day. But then when somebody new come in and asking me for the tea, if you will, and I'm like, no, I'm not giving you anything. I want you. And then later they'll say, girl, I said, oh, you found out some things, huh? And they're like, I wish you had told me in advance. No, I don't operate like that. I need you to find out. Nobody will ever be able to say, Teresa said something negative. Now, once you experience some things and you want to talk about it, sure, we can talk. But I'm never going to badmouth someone first. Find out about it. Find out for yourself. Yeah.
So. Well, I just pray for everyone that's a member of the church. One thing one of my former pastors used to say as part of his benediction, he said, if everyone was in the church was like me, what kind of church would this church be?
Oh, Lord.
Let me tell you something. It makes sense to me now more than it did then. Because like the Bible says, you can tell a tree by the fruit it bears. And if you are in a relationship or a child of God, we should be able to see something godly about you.
Yes.
Within 24 hours of it. And if we see more of the devil and less of Jesus, then you cannot say that you are a child of God. And you have a lot of people walking around as frauds, saying that they're children of God, when in fact, based on their actions, they are not. And that's why we have so many people who are hurt.
What I picked up in the last few years is that we were all created by God. Mm-hmm. But we're not all children of God. I don't know if people understand that there is a difference, because a child of God to me is living according to, not saying that you're perfect, but walking the walk the way that God wants us to walk. Mm-hmm. We've all been created of God, and that's sometimes my prayer. God, I pray for your created children. I know that we're not all doing what it is that you want us to do, So that's been a little phrase that I've picked up and that I speak of sometimes. We're not all, yes, we're all created by God, but we're not all children of God in the sense that we are following and living the way that God wants us to live.
Mhm.
And that's quite evident in what we see in the world today. Even in the church. The church is supposed to be like a hospital. We go there to get healing. You know, even working. Like I said, I started off in corporate and going there and, you know, wanting to the attitudes that I encountered even from the very beginning. I'm like, Lord, maybe I need to go back to the law firm because this is crazy. You know. But yeah, this has been probably, if not number one, I think it's number one, most definitely number two, hurt on my list of hurts.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we close out, since you say it's the second thing on your list as far as hurts, what's one thing you have done to help heal yourself from the church hurt?
Girl, I pray. That's all I know. I, you know, and that was before minister became on my, you know, in front of my name.
Mm.
I don't know what else to do but pray. I've always been a church girl.
Yeah.
You know, and as years, you know, have gone by, my relationship with God has gotten more and more and deeper and deeper. God has allowed me to experience some things, even in my personal life and my children and all of that. But in my work life, I stay on my knees. Because of what I have to face.
Yeah.
What I have to face. And if I had known when my aunt said, you need to learn people's names, and then when this opportunity came, if I had known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have come this way.
Mm.
And this is just my experience. You know, everybody may not feel the same way. I'm sure they won't. But this is based on the people that I've had to deal with, and they're not all bad, but the leaders that I've had to encounter, that makes it bad for everybody else. And it has not been easy. So I'm just like, I just pray. And right now my prayer is, God, please. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to go where you send me. But would you hurry up?
Yeah, that's a good way to end it. But before we do, just in case God sends the right person to watch this video, this podcast, how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, well, I mean, I have email. You want me to give my email? I don't want to give out a telephone number.
No, don't do that.
And don't want to give out the name of the church.
No, don't do that either. So I'm gonna put it with your name. So
okay. What's the email? Risa, REESA 64.
Yep.
JCKSN at AOL.com.
You can tell she's old with an AOL account.
Whatever, Sheree.
So I just posted it. So if anybody wants to get in touch with her, she has 24 years experience as an administrative assistant, and she's very skilled in what she does. So there's her email. Reach out to her. And I want to thank you, Mom, for coming to join us to tell us about church hurt in the role of the administrative assistant. And we got a 2-for-1 in the role of a minister. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Mom. I'll talk to you.
Thank you for including me in the number, and I hope someone will hear and be blessed by what they've heard through the whole series. There's nothing like church hurt, but you know, God is able.
Yes, He
is. And
I
thank you for including me.
No problem. All right. Okay, thank you again, Mother. That's Minister Reverend Teresa Jackson. If you want to get in touch with her about a job opportunity, there's her email right next to her name. in the scroll. Again, I want to thank her for coming to join me to talk about church hurt in the role of an administrative assistant and as a minister. Next week's topic, we're going to be finishing up church hurt with a parishioner. So those of us that sit in the pews with participants in certain ministries, we're going to get her take on the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a parishioner for our final episode of the Church Hurt series. Now, after we finish and conclude the Church Hurt series, we are then going to tap into our family hurt. So, mother-child parent relationships, cousins, siblings, in-laws. We've already had people sign up. We're going to talk about adoption and infertility. So if you would like to share your story with us, just email me at underneaththehat@gmail.com. Again, we'll be discussing family hurt, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you're interested in sharing your story, email me at underneaththehat@gmail.com. I want to thank everyone for joining me. And if you're able, you can check out my book, Underneath the Hat, on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Again, Underneath the Hat, you can find it on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so grateful to all of you who join me every week. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel and share it on the Facebook page. And remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat. I will see you all next Saturday as we conclude our Church Hurt series.